being an entrepreneur sounds cool, but the reality of building a business is very, very difficult. Every level that you hit, there's a lot of things that suck that you just won't want to do. What you're capable of is on the other side. I don't feel like it.
And if you're committed to what it is that you're trying to do, nothing is going to stop you from getting there. Welcome back to another episode of Real Business Owners. I appreciate you being here. I'm excited for you to listen to this episode. It's with a dear friend of mine, Michael Burns. I met Michael Burns in the Arate Syndicate, where we were each paying $6,000 a month to be a part of this group, to learn and grow from Ed Milet and Andy Frisella. And here we are 5 years later, sitting down and having a conversation. So I know you guys are going to enjoy it. He's a good man, a good friend. I already know what you guys are getting into. So buckle up, enjoy the ride. If you're ready to level up, go to joinrbo.com. Enjoy today's episode. Without a doubt, everybody goes through a phase of like extreme doubt, extreme fatigue, where they just want to quit and give up. At what point was that for you in business? Was it more early on, middle? Did you already make a decent chunk of money? Like, where were you at when you were the closest to just fucking lighting a match to everything?
I've had a couple of times, bro, when I've just wanted to say fuck it. And, you know, it's our second flip that me and my brother ever did. We've got 4 deals going. It's winter time in Salt Lake City. Market's not super great. It's
What year?
2013. Like, we're still crawling at our 2008 hole. I got into, you know, doing flipping houses, and bro, it was bad. Like, me and my brother are partners at the time. We had 4 properties, and we're losing like 50. We ended up losing $50,000 on the second deal we ever did, but we didn't even have the money to pay the utilities. So I would keep the gas at like 50 degrees, just warm enough to not bust pipes and stuff. And we didn't maybe have a showing a week on these houses. I'd get the phone call, drive over, crank the heat up to 75, wait across down the street, across away from the house, just watching the showing go out. Dude, they leave, blowing the agent up. How'd it go? Is there anything we could do? Like, just begging for an offer. But I didn't even have the money to pay the utilities on these properties. And then I've got 4 hard money loans with 4 different lenders. I'm younger. I'm not seasoned. I don't know what I'm doing. All these loans are in default. Every single month, I'm having to ask for extensions, renegotiate extensions on this. I borrowed $50,000 from my dad. I'm probably losing that money from him. And that was pretty gnarly. I remember we had a family trip in Maui, and I'm in Maui with my family, just miserable the whole time. I just can't. And that was probably, outside of this last few years, we'll talk about, the lowest moment for me. And if I would have quit then, none of this would have happened. So,
is making the money that you've made everything that you thought it would be when you were originally young and chasing making that type of money?
All I've wanted to do is be successful. For the wrong reasons, you know, like for me, like, because I thought when you're there, then you arrive, you feel good about yourself, all this stuff. But probably for sure, the time that I realized that it's not all it's cracked up to be, I made $200,000 net in a month, and my wife at the time wasn't home. I was fucking 40 pounds overweight, looked like shit, didn't even, like, not proud of how I looked, super insecure, and nothing else was good, dude. I was stressed out, on edge, ego, you know, that young money, think you're better than everyone, you know what's going on, judgmental, all that shit. And I remember sitting there thinking, damn, dude, I just netted $200,000 in a month, bro. I'm not even 30, you know, this is awesome. Or it should be, right? But it wasn't. And that was a defining moment for my life, when I was like, it's not all about the money. Because even if I threw another 0 on this and it was 2 million, I would still feel like shit, because nothing else is going well. I'm not happy. I'm addicted to stress, chaos, and anxiety, because I think in order to make money and be doing big shit and be important, I got to be stressed out. Those are all the indicators, right? Success. And I was wrong, super wrong. So that was a super defining moment for me, bro.
What would you say is the biggest contributing factor to your net worth? Like, was there a specific deal that you absolutely crushed it on? Is there a specific habit that helps you crush it or stay in the game? Is there, like, what's the biggest contributor that you could say, because of this is why I'm able to do what I do?
The relationship that I've built with myself through doing that serious inner work and just letting go of a lot of the stuff and reprogramming and just getting into like my vibe, who I want to be, the way that I want to show up and the core values that I want to have. And like my number one, so lifestyle is my brand. So I got a core value for each letter of lifestyle. And the first one's lead by example. And what you talked about, your worth and your value and stuff. I look at all the people who've made significant impacts in my life. Andy Frisella, Ed Milet, like different people that are down the road further than me. They've massively changed my life because they decided to go out and publicly share what they know and their information and be an example. And so through that, I felt like that's what my value is be the best version of myself and share it with the world. But through that process and doing that work has slingshotted me. And as a byproduct of that, the money comes, the assets come, the relationships come, because now I'm in a frequency and an energy with myself. And then so naturally I'm in that frequency of higher vibrating things, which is the value, the money, different things like that. So I think that's been the biggest contributing factor. And then you couple that just with being a type A naturally, since I was a little kid wanting to be successful. And it just like magnified all that.
Yeah. When you say like lead by example, that means just ultimately how you choose to show up in the world and kind of your routines and your habits and, having integrity and character. That's what you mean by lead by example, right?
Yeah.
Is showing up in a certain manner which maybe makes somebody else want to live a little bit better because they're in your proximity. And I would say that was a huge takeaway that I took from them. Also with like the David Goggins and the Michael Jordans. I'm like, Michael Jordan didn't play basketball to inspire millions of kids to want to be the best basketball player in the world out in their yard. He just wanted to be the best version of him as a basketball player. And then by default, what did it end up happening? All the kids ended up wanting to be like Michael Jordan. He was just executing at a high level himself. Like there was a song that I listened to. It was like a 14-year-old girl. She had like a bunch of health issues and her dream was to become a big singer. Right.
Yeah.
And she had a song that like went viral, but she's like a little Italian girl. And she goes up on stage and they say, hey, this is her dream, whatever, huge crowd. And she just sings this song that was absolutely just incredible. Right. And so I put it on Spotify. And I was listening to it when I was out running and I don't even understand it. And I'm like, this girl can sing. She has something special in her. She's great. And I'm like, well, why is a guy like me that's out running listening to that? I said, it's because she's great at what she does. And I said, okay, well, what is it about greatness that draws us in? And for me, I think it's our greatness is as close to God as we'll ever get on this earth.
Yeah.
Because he gave you greatness. He gave me greatness. He gave everybody a level of greatness. And those that have done the work to extract that level of greatness, that's as close as we're going to be able to get to something that he created that put inside of an individual that they did the work to extract, right? And so it's like we're just drawn to it because really that's God's doing, right?
Yeah, but that's an example that you're drawn to, right?
Yeah.
And it's also, the energy that you are. But when with you, because I follow you on your stuff, dude, when you spit the most fire?
When?
Your best shit is when you're taking a break from your run or you just finished your run. Like the other day you were talking about friction and you're talking, and that's because you're in a high frequency, high thing, but you're also in a high discipline. But when another thing that greatness does is it's an example, right? So people see the example of greatness, but it's also very inspiring, motivating, and it also provides hope.
Yeah.
Like maybe I could do that.
Yeah.
At least it sparks that idea. Most people don't follow through with it, but that's why examples are so important.
So why did you, bro? Because you have been on a journey in the last few years. Like, dude, your discipline is at a different level than what it used to be. Everybody goes to their own journey, but why, you just wake up one day and said, I've got to do this for the rest of my life. This has to be a lifestyle versus just like a 75-day program. What was it that finally said, this is going to be who I am?
It was that night in ayahuasca, bro. I have my journal today and to prove it, I go back to what
did it say? What did you say to yourself? What was the exact aha?
I was told, you are a leader. You need to lead by example. And even in that, and it took me years after, but it was start the podcast, do the thing. But it was just you are an example.
So then you felt a high level of responsibility of shit.
Yeah.
If I'm an example, nobody should be living like this as an example. So I need to hold myself to a much higher standard, more so than I have before.
But I mean, bro, there was years in between, right? That's when it was first like, there's no hiding from it, you know? So when you talk about it, like for me, when I talk about accountability and stuff, like once you've been exposed to a piece of information or a truth, from that point forward, because we don't know what we don't know, right? But once you know what you know, it is then on you if you're going to look the other way and ignore it. And at that point,
it's a choice.
At that point, I'm being a bitch and I'm not being loyal to the truth. So one of my things is I'm loyal to the truth. So like, I know these truths because I've been shown them and I know in my heart what they are. So if I'm sitting here asking, what's my purpose? What am I doing? And I'm specifically told by God and ayahuasca, like,
you can't unsee that.
Yeah. And
I know for people that don't know that experience, it's like, oh, you know, some people chalk it up as well. You're on drugs and this and that. To be quite honest with you, there was nothing more real to me than the experience that I had in terms of like the messages that I received.
When you get in that place, like it's been put to me that like, you know, the medicine, it helps you get to a space that like a 25-year master meditator can get. But what it really does is it turns off your ego.
Yeah.
It sets your ego on the shelf. So then you're dealing with real truth. So then what happens for me, I go in a space like that and like, you know how it is, dude. It's like everything's crystal clear and you know, like, you know, there's like, you know what you know and you know it in your heart and your soul, period. Right. But then what happens is you get out of that space. You're not on that same frequency. You're not in that same energy or whatever you want to call it. And then you get back into reality.
Yeah,
and now your mind is here, your ego's here, your limiting beliefs are here, your entire history is there. And then the chatter starts, like, you know, so it was almost like I was showing this is a possibility of who you're supposed to be and what I want you to do. But no one's doing it for you. You got to go do these daily disciplines. You got to start turning on the camera and showing I remember the first flip, dude, that I ever made social media. I was shaking, shot it 10 times. I sound dumb. I look fat. I don't like how I look, like everything. But the fear of saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to do it anyways. Like that is a separator.
That is the separator.
There's not one person.
It's the friction, right?
Yeah.
Basically what I was talking about is if you're feeling friction, that means there's something there. In other words, progress is on the other side of friction. A tire needs friction on the road in order to make progress and move forward. And so what happens is we get to a point where we're starting to evolve and hit a friction point of what our current capabilities are. And then we're rubbing up against possibilities. And that's where the friction starts happening. And when you're rubbing up against possibilities, it's not going to feel good. People think operating at a high level feels good. You know, winning championships. Ed and Andy said that it doesn't feel good to win championships. Through the whole playoffs, they're getting beat up. They're getting bloodied. They're wondering if they're even going to be able to pull it off. Every team kind of has a little doubt. Every team has a little bit, you know, it's those that really come together collectively as a group that's able to pull it off. But there's always going to be friction on the way to something better. I don't know how else to put it because to me, once you're on the other side of something, like I've been a business owner and been successful and held on to every task, didn't really delegate, created a lot of my own headaches, then learned to start delegating, then made a ton of money. And like I've gone through these various cycles. Nothing has given me more than what just honoring my body and mind has given me. Living with a level of discipline that only few will ever understand. And the reason why those few actually honored it and lived like that is because what's on the other side of it is so great. Why would you keep going back to something that's so terrible? It's only terrible when you're starting to make it your new reality.
I think also when you put yourself in that frequency and that energy, that's when more is shown to you and more is given to you. And that's why I think you spit your best fire when you're on your runs, because it takes the highest level of discipline for you to put your shoes on and go run those 10 miles.
But I also believe it's because I'm honoring the human design at the same time. I'm honoring what he created at the highest level. I'm doing what it's designed. I'm out moving it with discipline. I received some of my best downloads out there because
this out.
I'm just there.
Yeah, but you're honoring it because you respect it, because you're grateful for it. So you're in a space of gratitude.
Very much so.
And that is the highest frequency you can be in, is love
Bro,
and
I've
gratitude.
been on a run up to the top of a mountain and dropped to my knees and said a prayer of gratitude. Like I wasn't even a thought like I need to drop to my knees and give.
Yeah.
It was just boom. It just kind of happened. And I
You
got
were
up
in it.
and I was just like, man, what a great day. And I was like, I got another 6 miles to backtrack. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just, that was probably the most incredible run that I've ever had.
But it was filled by choice 100% for you to get there.
You can't ever really get obsessed with something unless you've seen the results of your discipline. And what I mean by that is when I first started running, I hated it. I hated it and I hated it. And that was fine. I was like, nah, I'm supposed to hate it. I've never done it. When I started trying to learn to read, I hated reading. Like I had to keep putting myself in that environment over and over and over so that my body could acclimate, my mind can acclimate, and I could learn to read and I can learn to run, because I knew that there was something on the other side of that. And it's really not even on the other side of it. It's just something in it. There's no other side. Doing it is the other side.
Right up, bro, because there's so much resistance or friction, like you talked about.
Yeah.
Because no one likes to do something they're not good at. Maybe golf. A lot of guys love golf who suck at golf, but like naturally, if it's new or if it's foreign, your body and your mind says no.
Yeah.
If you're not comfortable or you don't know, we say no.
The only way of growth is actually
being able to
doing that.
Yeah. And then
that's it.
So if you have fear or resistance or whatever is causing that friction point that you mentioned, and you overcome friction, and number one, you realize like, oh, I'm still alive. I remember writing my first offer on a real estate deal. I was terrified. Like, fuck, I hope they say no.
Yeah.
And then they came back and it was like, cause it was low, and they're like, what is this? An unwelcome joke. And I remember I'm still alive.
Yeah.
Like there's all of this like worry. I heard this on a podcast driving down here. Worry is a down payment on problems you're probably never going to even have.
Yeah.
So the ability to overcome that, I think the energy or the level of confidence that come, even if you don't get a good result, the level of confidence of overcoming fear and doing it, that within itself creates momentum. And then you have a good experience, or even if you don't, you keep coming back. But momentum is a good experience. Momentum feels good. Discipline creates momentum.
Yeah.
So that's why when you're in your discipline of what you've been doing, we were talking about it off camera, like you feel best when you're most disciplined.
I wouldn't do it otherwise. Even though there's still many days that I wake up and I hate it. That's the problem. The neuro association with exercise is usually that first, 15 or 20 minutes getting out of bed. Like, I don't really like exercising. No, you actually would like exercising. The actual exercise and the feeling that you receive after is not bad. It's the process that you have to go through in order to get to the gym, or for me to lace up my shoes and get outside and start beating my feet. That first 1 or 2 miles, it sucks.
Yeah.
So that's the neuro association that most people have with progress, is that, but they're not seeing it through long enough to get to the side where going through that ends up paying off. And that's what I was talking about in terms of being obsessed. It starts getting to a point where you associate, oh my gosh, this friction that I create for myself every day makes me a better version of me. I'm starting to get obsessed with doing this because of the way that it does make me feel. Yeah. So my association with it is what I feel like after, when I'm in the shower and it's done and I feel proud of myself. I have a level of gratitude for my body in terms of what it has the ability to do. I have a level of gratitude for the abundance of choices that we all have the ability to make every single day, but most people don't choose the right ones. I heard somebody say, abundance is your birthright. And what that means to me is that you have an abundance of choices. Yeah. You literally can turn yourself into whatever the fuck it is that you want, because you have an infinite amount of choices. Every single day that you get out of bed, you can choose X, Y, or Z. It doesn't necessarily matter, but because it's not going to affect me. It's not going to affect Michael. It's going to affect you at the end of the day, right? And so utilize this abundance of choices properly. And I believe the proper way to do it is by starting to narrow them down. Because there's so many choices, we can't wake up with an abundance of choices every day if we have one specific outcome that we want. Because if we have one specific outcome, then that means there's a specific choice that you need to make on a day-to-day basis in order to get one step closer to that outcome. So the average person does have an infinite amount of choices to make on a day-to-day basis. The one that's actually living in a certain manner, which has a predetermined outcome that they already know that they want, they don't have the same choices as those other people.
There are all these choices, but when they always talk about start with the end in mind, or like the vision that you have. Yeah. And once you know where you are or where you want to go, you then are 100% in control of making the choices that are in alignment with that. It's not that hard. It's like, okay. And I talk about assets and liabilities. Everything in your life is either an asset or a liability to who it is you say you want to be or where it is you want to go. And every single decision, whether it's big or small, it's either in alignment with that or it's not. So you consistently get to make that choice over and over. Is this going to make me closer or further away from where it is I'm trying to go? And for me, and I watch it with you, every time you make a good choice, you're creating momentum, but you're also creating a relationship with yourself. And the more that you build a relationship with yourself and the more that you build a reputation with yourself as I do what the fuck I say I'm going to do, regardless, and you have a history of being able to put that together and look back at it, like look at all the choices that I've made because I said I was going to do something even if I didn't want to do it, and then you had a positive experience. So now you're cementing that with good energy and a good experience, and then you have that momentum. That's what is addicting, and that's why they say I'm obsessed.
They're obsessed with not necessarily the actual result, but the progress.
They're obsessed with progress because nothing is more exciting or rewarding than progress.
Yeah.
Because what progress represents is proof that what is new to you or what you believe in or what you're doing is working.
And it's evolution. It's proof that you're evolving as a human being.
Yeah.
Because when you stop evolving, you stop seeing progress.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that that's the biggest issue is everybody gets to a certain level where they have a house and they have a car and then they just stop.
Yeah.
Like what's next? They don't have a what's next. Right. And so like the way that we're wired is very young. We wanted more than the average person. Right. So what would you tell somebody that says that they want more and they have the house and they have the car and they really just don't know what their next step is?
It goes back to that $200,000 a month I have, or like, when you realize, because it's easy to tell someone who's broke or hasn't experienced success or a certain level of money or whatever, like it's not all about that when someone hasn't had it. So like,
if somebody told you that when you were on the path to try to make a bunch of money, would you have listened?
I've been like, you're a bitch, dude. Yeah. For fucking pussy. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But
so I get it.
Yeah. But like when you've had the mini mansion on the hill and you've had the Ferrari, the Rolex watch, the traveling first class, all the stuff, and you've been in a position to have that and then realize like, oh, this is empty. Most people don't ever find themselves in that position because they quit along the way or they didn't get there or whatever. So
settled.
Yeah. So most people settle and they don't even give themselves the opportunity to be in that position to see what that's like. So it's hard for people to listen to someone who they think is like, oh, how hard could life be? You have everything figured out, your comfortable life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
well, you feel kind of like a piece of shit if you have a whole lot and you don't feel grateful and you feel like that you want more or it's never enough. And then you have everything that you ever thought you wanted, but it didn't feel the way that you thought it would. So you kind of feel guilty that you're so blessed, but you're not feeling that.
Yeah. But that's because, from my experience anyways, is because it's tied to a thing that's outside of you. So it comes back to the greatness thing. Like chasing the best version of myself. How do I consistently get better? How do I continue to have progress in all the different areas that matter to me? And then that's where the purpose comes in place. And for me, when I realized external stuff is only going to be a short-term dopamine hit, there has to be more, there has to be something different. That's when you're forced to start looking in the mirror and inside.
I don't think it's bad to go chase those things if that's going to be the thing that actually gets you out of bed to do the thing, right? Because if that gets you to a level to where you're operating, where you can actually receive it, good, because once you receive it, then you'll find out for yourself. And then the real journey begins. And it's like every person that I've ever met that's been massively successful, when they got to the point of undeniable level of success, like the $200,000 check, they hit a low. And then they had to recreate themselves at that point. Every single person. I've never talked to somebody and be like, oh, it was exactly what I thought it was. And I'm just so excited. And they're always like, there's something more.
You want to go run, you want to do 2 days for 1,000 days. You want to see what you're capable of, right? So I want to see what I'm capable of in business, and like finances or money or assets or whatever. That's a measuring stick to success in one area, right? So I want to have all of it, right? I want to make money because why not? And also it's a byproduct of who is it? Yeah, but who is it? Like you don't just go create $1 billion, dude. Like who the fuck do you have to become and go through that's capable of producing that result? Because really that's a result and a byproduct of a lot of stuff that happened before that showed up. So it's just a natural course of progression for me. Business is just one part of it, you know, like where do I want to go in my fitness? I want to be the best version of me, and the best version of me who's always progressing and getting better. Well, naturally I'm going to make more money.
So that version of you, this one right here, came after an undeniable amount of money that said you should be happy, you're successful. The hard thing is when you're broke to hear say work on yourself. That's one of the fucking hardest things to hear.
We think we know what we know, right? And we have our philosophy of life and business and what's produced
on our experience
and what's produced where the results that we have, right? So, in 2022, the beginning of 2022, I was at my all-time high. Just made the most money I ever made. Just bought a Ferrari, $1.5 million house on the hill, bunch of money in crypto. Just bought into my first business as an investment. Fucking crushing life, dude.
Yeah.
Business, doing awesome. I was at the high. And then in March of 2022, I get an email from my ex-wife saying, hey, surprise, like, I don't want to do this anymore. She juices all the money in our accounts. I have to leave my house on the mountain. And then interest rates go from 3.25% to 7% at the end of the year. So I go from the best version of me I've ever been, success, dude, all the way up to that year. I had literally, since I was my whole life, made more money than I did the year before. Just every year, better. Yeah. So I go from, 16 years old when I first work all the way to 34, 35 with nothing but a better year than the year I had before. And then boom, everything's gone, man. Like I have to move out of my house. I sell my Ferrari. I just joined the country club, sell the country club membership. I'm in this super nasty divorce. Like it's not good. Money's being hemorrhaged. The market sucks. I'm literally losing millions, plural, of dollars of real money and these real estate deals. Like, dude, like I'm literally watching everything I've worked since I was 18 years old implode and fall apart. Like, dude, the house is gone. The car's gone. The wife is gone. I got to split time with my fucking dog. Like, it's all gone, right?
Yeah.
And that's a rock bottom place to go from living in a $1.5 million home that I still pay for today and staying in my little sister's basement, bro. My little sister's basement and on the other side of town, west side of town. I'm staying in my little sister's basement, just like that. And I had a moment going through that process of, do I believe what I say I believe and what I know is true, or do I only believe it when it's convenient? Because winning is easy, bro. Losing is hard. Losing is a separator. So going through that the last 3 years, I went back to the basics. I went back to what I know is true. I went back to what I was told in ayahuasca about one night. And I had that entire foundation. So like you talk about going from a high to a low, and we've all had that. So like I took all the lessons and all the truths and everything that I knew, getting to the peak, to now be at the bottom in my little sister's basement, bro, with like, I left with a duffel bag and a backpack. And it's like, all right, bro,
now what?
How cool are you now? How hot shot are you now? Like, how, like, do you really believe this shit you sit and talk on Instagram all day? Or you just like every other dude that's fake and not a
well, when you got millions, like you said, it's easy to say, you, look at me. Yeah.
When you say talk about like, how do you tell the guy that's broke that? It's like, dude, I went from one extreme to another, like in a snap in an email, really.
Yeah.
So what I know for sure is that success leaves clues, and I just remember sitting on a Home Depot bucket in a townhouse I just leased, totally empty. Nothing's in there because I literally left with nothing. And I'm sitting on a Home Depot bucket, crying my eyes out. And it was just like, it goes back to you asking the question, like, when did you want to quit the most? At the beginning of the podcast. And I sat there in that townhouse and I said, I'm not a bitch and I'm not a quitter. I'm not a bitch and I'm not a quitter. And I said that until I fucking believed it, probably 100 times. And then from that moment forward, it's just been nothing but practicing what I preach and all the shit that I've learned that I know is true that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Like, it's either true or it's not. And once you're shown truths and information, you can't look the other way on that. Once you know what you know, like, you're then responsible to yourself, to God, to the universe, to the energy, whatever you want to call it. So do I believe in that like I say I do, or do I don't? And I put all my faith into how do I just continue getting better? And like, dude, now I'm back on the come up, and it's been the best 3 years of my life, and I'm the strongest I've ever been. Things are all coming back. I got the best relationship, and like.
So do you have any regrets with none?
There's always things that we could do better. You know, like I could have showed up differently in that relationship, and there's some things I could have done differently, but like, I believe that, you know, when you have a purpose, like, you know, you have a purpose. I have my purpose. Like, you got to go through shit, you know, because now the reason you're able to be so successful with your mastermind and your coaching group and your online stuff and provide all the value that you do is because really all you're doing, bro, or all Andy does or all Ed does is they're sharing their real life experience of what they've been through.
Yeah. And
that inspires millions of people because through that process, you're achieving greatness. You're the best version you've ever been of you.
Well, what's crazy is as I've gone down this path and said, hey, you know, I'm going to try to chase something that only few people have ever been able to accomplish, because like, why not? You know, we've got one, like what else am I going to do kind of thing, right? I'm sick of watching other people live out, you know, their greatness. And,
well, bro, not to cut you off, but like what you just said, I'm sick of watching other people live out their greatness. Like, for the people listening, like, when are you going to get sick of everyone living their fucking highlight reel on Instagram?
Yeah.
When are you going to get sick of watching everybody else do the things that you wish you could do or you want to do? And that's that pain moment we talked about. Like, when are you going to have had enough of your own shit to where you're going to make the change and you're going to make the adjustment? So you were sick of watching everyone live out their stuff. So you fill in the blank with where you were.
I got sick of getting a dopamine hit off of watching somebody else live a cool life, where I would see Goggins run I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool. And then guess what? I wake up the same version of me the next day. Ain't shit changed for me, except for I got a little teeny hit watching somebody else live out what their own greatness.
Yeah.
Right. And it just got to the point where I was like, no, I'm going to try that on for myself, because they wouldn't keep going back to what everybody else calls as crazy unless they were receiving something from it. There's an exchange happening there. Real wealthy people, rich people think in terms of like 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay putting in 5 years with something to see if it's going to be able to produce what I think it'll produce. I don't need to see a result from something in 6 months. I'm playing a much longer game. And so for me, when I started running, okay, let's see where I'm at in 3 to 5 years. Starting a podcast,
bro.
Let's see where I'm at in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, business. Let's see what it does for 3 to 5. Let's not judge where I'm at in my health in 6 months, where I'm at with my business in 6 months, where I'm at, whatever's new to you, you're going to be terrible at in the first 6 months. And so for me, it was like, I'm going to play a long game, and I'm going to see if I could do this thing. And the funny thing about it is, at first, I'd question myself some days. I mean, obviously, there's hard days. Like, what the fuck am I even doing this? Like, I have money. Like, I don't got to be out here in the cold.
Talking about 1,000 days at 2.
Yes, yeah. Like, what's the point? And your brain doesn't turn on you when you're the most motivated. It usually turns on you when you're at the lowest point and there's a lot of friction. It knows when to sell to you.
Well, you've got all the permission in those moments. You have all the permission internally and probably externally from the people in your life chattering, telling you how crazy it is to quit or to give up.
That right there is the missing piece. It's the gaps that you put in between showing up.
Yeah. It takes discipline and faith. Like, do I have faith in what I'm doing and that I'm doing the right things, and that it's, you know, have I put the time and effort in to have a plan that I know is going to produce results, or at least give me the best opportunity that I can? And then am I going to have faith in that to keep showing up? And
I would call it faith in the friction then.
faith in the friction and the discipline to keep showing up, dude.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, it's just going to be like, for me, you know, on the come up, it's just loss after hard, loss, you know, and then you kind of have your pops and stuff. And then you think you've made it like 22 and then it's like back to fucking zero.
Yeah.
So you either
But you still have, you know, you still have the mind and the lessons and that network but you still have to pull yourself out of the pit and utilize those things in a manner which could get you back where you are, right? The two biggest places that people benefit from is at extreme lows or extreme highs. You know, you'll recreate yourself at an extreme high and you're going to recreate yourself at an extreme low. If you live ferociously mediocre, you will always be that because the pain will never be great enough to recreate yourself, you know?
Or you won't put enough in to experience the extreme high part of it, right? So
you stay there. You stay there. So what's some parting words of wisdom that you would give to, let's say, a 19-year-old entrepreneur that's new in the game, that is hungry, that's motivated?
Assets and liabilities are a really big thing for me. You really got to monitor your environment, you know, like it happens for all of us. If you come from a normal middle class, if you come from wherever you come from, everyone knows the version of you that's there today.
Yeah.
So when you try and start, number one, when you want to do something great or get better or make money or whatever it is, you want to go from where you are to where you want to be. It's going to be hard. It's hard by design. Like, if it was easy, everyone would do it, right? So you have to monitor your environment that's going to support who it is you want to become. And you have to understand who it is you have to become that's capable of producing the result you want, because it's that version of you and the things that you do and become that produce the result. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to go make $1 million. It's who do I have to become to make $1 million? And a huge part of that is, what does my environment look like? Is it supportive of that version of me and that goal or not? And a lot of times that's the people, the family and friends that are around you. They're not going to be supportive of that. Everybody always wants to give unsolicited advice, whether it's relationship advice, a business advice, life advice, whatever it is. And one of the things one of my rules is, if I'm not willing to trade positions with this person that's telling me all this shit right now, specifically on the thing they're talking to me about, I'm not going to listen to them.
Yeah.
And that might sound arrogant, but why the fuck would you ever listen to somebody if you weren't willing to trade places with them and the very thing they're trying to tell you about?
Yeah.
Your environment, that's who you're around. That's also, what are you listening to? What are you reading? What are you eating? What are you consuming? Like, your entire environment, you're around all day, every day. You have a lot of control over that, and monitoring that's the biggest thing. I think if you're going to want to try to be successful. And then also, you got to put yourself in environments where bigger is happening. So like for us, we talked about earlier in the show with Arate, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to make $1 million in a year at the time. And it was like, that was a big goal. And like, I was in the vehicle to do it, but it's just like, can I really do that? Is that real? Can I really own a Ferrari? But then when you get around people making $1 million, $2 million, $10 million a year, it brings it closer, and you're like, this is real. I can do this. It was the first thing when I flipped my first house. I remember like, oh, we're writing all these offers, we're not getting them. And then I found a mentor, you know, so a mentor is part of this environment, but like, find someone who's doing what it is you want to do and go be around them. Another thing is, don't be a taker. You know, everyone wants something for nothing. Like, do not be a taker. And if you're going to try and find a mentor and you go them, hey, can I have your time? Can I take you to lunch? No one wants your free sandwich. Like, how can you provide value? You know? So every successful person has had a mentor, or they've had someone in their life who helped them along the way.
Influence.
And so you talk about, you know, lead by example. Like, we talked about that. Why are we doing what we're doing? It's because other people did it for us. So like, there's any successful people, most successful people feel an obligation to put a hand down, because it's like, hey, I didn't get here on my own. I had people along the way that helped me and gave me their time or inspired me or whatever. So, and if you're successful, most people are going to be in that good energy, and they're going to want to take it. Like, they're going to want to do that because it's part of the give and take.
Yeah.
But don't be a taker, man, and just be who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Show up in an authentic, genuine way, and show up in a way that makes people respect you. Even if you're not where you think that you need to be financially, you could still show up in a manner, because I can see young hustlers that are 19 and 20 and the way they're living their life. I'm like, dude, respect. You still can get a lot of respect from people that are successful just by showing up in a manner that is conducive to an outcome that would eventually means I've seen people and I'm like, bro, this guy's going to be successful.
Yeah.
But they're probably doubting themselves the entire time, but you could just tell when you're, 10 years further or 15 years further than them, you're like, dude, just
keep going.
You'll be fine.
Keep doing what you're doing.
You're going to crush it, so just keep showing up the way that you're showing up and life will be great. As promised, another kick-ass episode from your boy Trevor here at Real Business Owners. Please do me a favor, rate and review the show, share the show on social media, tag your friends in our posts on Instagram and Facebook. Make sure that you're helping us grow so that we can all level up together. Keep kicking ass and we'll see you next week.